Ace of Spades here, welcome to Goblin-Inc. Today we're going to talk about the Touch of Death build. Has been updated by me, I did some testing. Biggest thing is, the Banish Lord Talisman does not work with this build. The explosions from Unsatiable are not gonna work with Overpower. So the build plays a little bit different. The good thing though is that every build has had a major update recently, as the guys from Mobilytics Sanctum discovered that Resilient as a passive is even stronger than Resolve stacks. You want a 2-to-1 ratio of Resilient versus Resolve, because having maximum HP higher, Resilient gives you more maximum HP, it's this talent over here, it's gonna boost your damage way higher, because again, this increases your maximum shield, and most of the damage from Spiritborn comes from this talent over here in the Legendary node, Viscous Shield. So that's been one big breakthrough for this build. We do not play Overpower in this build, we do not play Armor. We're gonna be going with Touch of Death, Insatiable on the Amulet, with Redirected Force, and we're gonna be going with Moonrise for our damage aspects. Let's take a quick look at what we have. The good thing now is that as we discover the power of those passives, Legendary items are better than uniques, because it allows us to run things like Touch of Death, Swarm Duration, Maximum Result stacks, and those are really important for the build. So let's take a look at how many possibly Touch of Death, Swarm Duration you would have on the build. Would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6.
6?
Sometimes I think of 6 bricks,
Bert, that's very boring.
or else I think of 6
Times Touch of Death, Swarm Duration. Now, one of them I would be running instead Vortex Size, but running 6 times Touch of Death, Swarm Duration would vastly increase your damage. Unfortunately for me, I have a lot of non-Touch of Death, Swarm Duration, because my gear isn't prepared for that, and I cannot break my full BCGA gear for that. But I have a couple of them. I have 2 rolls of Touch of Death, Swarm Duration. Each of them is a big damage multiplier and definitely worth running. For the chest, we have Interdiction. For the Gloves Moonrise, like we said, you want to have core skill attack speed maximum life here, because it's important to cap attack speed, remember that. We have Binding Morass here. We want to get that close enemies takes 20% damage to slow the enemies. Now, the reason why we do not run the Fear one, that gives us 40% damage, is because at the moment I am not running Scourge in my build. I am instead running Vortex and Soar because I want more speed. Some people feel like they want to kill things in 0.1 seconds rather than in 0.09 seconds. And that's the case, I'm gonna put the most damage version of Mobilytics, which runs Scourge instead of Soar. So, if you run Scourge, you wanna run the 40% damage against feared enemies. If you want to run without Scourge, you wanna run more move speed, you can run Soar and run Binding of Morass, Arshan Falls, like this one. Again, we wanna have a 2-to-1 ratio of Resilient versus Resolve stacks. And for me, I have 3 Resolves and 1 Resilient because I failed my Temperings, but you want to have 2 Resilience and 2 Resolve, or 3 Resilience and 1 Resolve. And all of them, Masterwork in them is top tier. For the Amulet, the stats aren't the best. This is not a really good Amulet specifically. Potent is very powerful. I will go with the maximum life, Potent, and Dexterity, and I would Masterwork either Dexterity, either Potent or Resilient. Resilient is incredible amount of damage. Potent also as well. So those are your 2 options. I will have that on Mobilytics. Again, my gear isn't perfect. On the ring, I do not have vulnerability, but on my builder I will have it. I'm explaining. I do not have any other way to apply vulnerability in this build other than Soar. And if you want to apply vulnerability without Soar, you need to have vulnerability chance on the ring and lose that dexterity roll. We run resource cost reduction because we are able to activate the Kapeleka with less than 275 resources. The resource generation is not needed because we are getting it from here. from Vigorous. We're getting the 15% gen there. So we have switched to running resource cost reduction, which is bugged and is a multiplier for us. Again, my gear isn't perfect. As you can see, I'm reutilizing some of my gear. I have overpowered damage instead of basic skill damage, but that's what I'm gonna have on the planner on Mobiletics. For the boots, I have Ferocity. Dexterity max move speed is gonna stay the same. The Kepelek, instead of having critical strike damage, it's gonna have a chance for score skills to hit twice, GAs. But for Touch of Death, the bonus actually only activates every 1 second. So technically speaking, even though chance for core skill to activate twice, to hit twice works, it's not needed to be GA, and the best masterwork on this weapon would be 3 times on maximum resources. For the Spirit Hole, we go Jagar, because we're not running with Ebewaka. This is my skill tree. 3 points and 3 points in Vigorous. I'm running with Vortex and with Soar. If you don't want to run Soar, take Soar out and run with Scourge. Like I mentioned, you can do 50% damage, or you can have, you know, 20-30% more speed clear on the dungeon. In my opinion, that's superior, but it's up to you if you want to go that. Ravager, of course, we are running Resilient, best passive in the game for us. Full points in the passive here, the Hunter, Touch of Death, and of course remember that Vehemence gives you 30% damage increase for your potency skills, and of course Touch of Death is a potency skill. Lastly, we run Prodigy's Tempo. The Paragon actually has gotten a really huge upgrade. This is based on the Paragon board that Sanctum made. And the big discoveries from this are, well, first of all, we are running Headhunter. Headhunter gives us a lot of stats, and stats are needed to activate all the nodes in the last board. It's also a very good glyph, as it provides increased damage to elites. Here we have Managerist, but I'm not running Managerist. Actually, the best thing to run, Hubris. Hubris is not 100%. So if Hubris is actually maxed out, it will be higher than Managerist. Now Managerist, where is it? Might even already be up. I was leveling it up. Managerist is 272. And Hubris is, as you can see, it's already higher at 321, even though it's not maxed out. Now, because magical nodes for us are giving us maximum resource is a great damage multiplier for us for Kepeleka. So it turns out that Hubris, even though, you know, it has a weird bonus like tons based on your damage, like you gain tons bonus damage, doesn't do anything for us. It turns out that just the increased stats you get from maximum resources and everything else is extremely valuable, especially because we also get more stats, and more stats help us activate all the nodes on the Paragon board. So it is kind of needed. So those are the two main upgrades. We are also running Bane. Bane is important because it's poison damage, and it helps us to activate Convergence. This is also a common mistake that I see on the Chinese builds, is that they do not know that it's bugged, and they're using still Kenny. Because Kenny, if you look at your stats sheet, it's gonna give you damage to all type of damage, so poison, fire, lightning, whatever. Actually, it does not work for Convergence. So if you're not running either Bane, or if you're not running Fulminate or fire damage, you're not gonna be getting any bonus from Convergence. So it's important to run that. We are running Spirit, and we are still running Colossal, even though we do not technically have a core skill. Colossal, so we do not have Gorilla core skill. So the only thing that you really need to do is remove strength from here. As long as you don't need the strength to activate your final board nodes. For me, I needed it, but now that I don't have enough strength. But soon, when my Hubris will be leveled up, I will. The sole reason we're running Colossal is because it has damage to close enemies and increased damage for each stack of Resolve. The increased damage with Gorilla skills really doesn't matter. This small amount of additive damage isn't a big deal, and we don't really care about it. For the time being, I'm adding the strength here simply because I need it for my rare nodes. One more. Well, as you can see, everything checks out. For the Mercenary, nothing has changed. I'm still running Altkin for damage reduction, even though it doesn't do anything. And we're running the Mocking Lure. I like the armor. You can also run magic resistances if your armor is capped. Because we are not needing anymore the Fortified Generation. Even though it's a nice damage reduction. Because we do not run Overpower. It's okay if you want to run 15% magic resistance. That's perfectly fine. So in my case right now in the city, my magic resistance is gonna be decent. It's not crazy high, but believe me, this build is incredibly tanky. When you get the poison resistance from going out of town, having a Chorus of War also would put you up at 48%. You have no reason to cap your resistances. Going full damage when in combat you have over 20k life. This is unbuffed. In combat with the potion and with all your stuff active, you have over 20k life and 20k shield. You really do not need to have your resistances capped. So do not be worried about that. If you still feel like you wanna cap your resources, you can remove a dexterity roll from the boots and run all rest. In my experience, it's not necessary, but you can do whatever you feel like. And that is the full explanation for the build. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys on the next video.